Hello again. In our last lecture, we were talking about modernity and authenticity in kind of general terms. We talked about the kinds of social change that are associated with the modern period and about the psychological predicament that those changes put people in. Right, as modernity pulls people more and more out of the local identities that defined people for most of human history, it creates a need for some certainty about reality, for a foundation of what's really real that can be a basis for your own identity and action. I think that's a predicament that most people in the modern world can identify with. At the same time, though, it's a pretty general statement. If we say that people in the modern world hunger for authenticity, and if we say that this shapes some of the ways that they create culture, it would really be helpful to have some examples, some things that show how that takes place and what it actually means for day-to-day life. Now, in our next few lectures, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be looking at some of those examples. In our lecture today, which will be a short one, by the way, we're going to look at the way that the search for authenticity shapes ideas about ethnicity. Ethnic identities, of course, are something that go way back in human culture. And as we said in our discussion about race, they've always been something that's been the subject of negotiation and disagreement. In the modern period, though, there's a strong argument that they take a different form. Ethnicity becomes something that's less about groups and more about individuals. And that means that the way we form ethnic archetypes and relate to ethnically based practices changes in some distinctive ways. Now, we're going to talk first about the ways that ethnicity as a concept changes in the modern period, the transition from what Herbert Gans calls social ethnicity to symbolic ethnicity. And after that, we're going to look at one effect that this change has on ethnic identities, the tendency to define ethnic groups in terms of exotic exemplars. Before we do that, though, we will just say a few words, just a few, about the transnational nature of modernity and why Lindholm's book takes the approach to examples that it does. Let's turn to that now.